Hey guys, I'm going to share a real story of a pharmacist that I've worked with who turned her HELOC into a self-paying investment. Hey everyone, my name is Sam, your mortgage loan officer, and today we're going to be breaking down how real estate investors and landlords are using HELOCs, also known as home equity lines of credit, to fund investments, boost cash flow, and pay off their debt faster. So let's talk about a HELOC. What is a HELOC? A HELOC lets you borrow against equity in your home, kind of like a credit card or a credit card secured by your property. Now, you're approved for a certain limit and you only pay interest on what you actually use. That flexibility makes it a great tool for investors who want access to cash without refinancing their whole mortgage. Now, you can use it for renovations, debt consolidation, or even purchasing another income producing property, which most investors like. So let's talk about how a HELOC works. So here's the breakdown. You'll have a draw period, and it's usually between 3, 5 to 10 years where you can borrow funds, move them into your bank account, or even write checks directly to the HELOC. And most people only pay interest during this time, which helps with cash flow. And then comes the repayment period, which is typically 10 to 20 years, where you start paying back both the principal and the interest. So during that draw period is where investors have that window of time to make the money that they borrowed work for them, ideally ways that pay the HELOC back. So for instance, if you're doing a fix and flip or you're doing a BRRRR, borrow money from the HELOC, buy the property, get it stabilized, rent it or refinance it. And then if you refinance, you can pay the HELOC back. If you're renting it, now you can use that rental income to pay the HELOC back as well. Now, to qualify for a HELOC, most lenders want to see the following. They want to see at least 15 to 20% equity in your property, a credit score of 650 or higher for better rates, a debt to income ratio of around 40% or less, and stable income, whether from W-2 work-related income or rental income. So if you own your home for a few years, your property is likely appreciated enough to unlock some serious opportunities. Now, these opportunities could be like scaling your portfolio, taking on a fix and flip. Maybe you want to do some renovations to some of your existing properties, or maybe you want to even add like an ADU to one of your properties. Whatever the case may be, if you have appreciation in some of your properties, you can tap into your HELOC and be able to do some of these things. So how does these HELOC rates work? HELOCs usually come with variable interest rates, which means your payment can move with the market. Now that's great when rates drop because your payments will drop, but it can also be bad if rates rise, your payment goes up. So that's why some of my clients choose fixed rate HELOCs, which offer predictable payments and helps with planning cash flow, especially for rental renovations or ADU projects. So there are also some circumstances where you can get a mix of variable and fixed, where you're paying a variable rate during the draw period, and then it becomes a fixed rate once the draw period is over, and then you pay the interest and principal together combined. So let me give you a real world example of how these HELOCs work. I was recently working with a pharmacist. He's full-time W-2, steady income, great credit. She had about 200,000 in equity in one of her properties. And I think it's her primary residence. And initially she reached out because she wanted to use a HELOC to consolidate debt, like her credit cards, car loans. She had a little bit of student debt. She wanted to consolidate that. Now, paying off high interest debt with the HELOC is smart. And some will say it's a good idea. But as we looked at her situation, I asked her a question. I said, what if instead instead of paying off the debt, we use the HELOC to create another income source that pays it off for you? So we ran the numbers on building an ADU or accessory dwelling unit right in her backyard. Now the total cost came out to roughly about 125K, which fit within her HELOC limit. So you could rent the ADU for around 1,800 to 2,000 per month. That rental income would cover the HELOC payment entirely. And after about 7 years, the HELOC would be paid off by the tenant, not by her paycheck. So after that, she'd have a fully paid off ADU producing pure cash flow, which she could then use to pay off the rest of her debts. Or if she wanted to, she can reinvest it. So instead of using her home equity to erase debt, she used it to create an income stream that eliminated the debt for her. So this was a complete mindset shift. And I was like, okay, Using the equity not as a safety net, but as a growth engine is major, major key. So if you're taking out a HELOC, how much can you borrow? Now, most lenders will let you borrow up to 85% of your home's value minus what you owe on your mortgage. So let's just say your property's worth 600,000 and you owe 300,000. That's roughly 210,000 in accessible equity. That could be enough to fund a small ADU, finish a rental rehab, or even put down on a down payment for another investment property. So what are some really smart uses for HELOCs? Now, if you're a landlord or an investor, here are my top 3 strategic ways to use a HELOC. 1, you can use it for renovations. You can upgrade your rental property, increase the value, and even raise the rent. 2, you can use it as portfolio growth. You can use the home's equity as down payment capital for your next property. And 3, cash flow engineering. Like my pharmacist client, you can fund an income producing addition that just pays for itself. Now, HELOCs come with both pros and cons. So I'm going to list some of the pros and cons for you guys. Now, some of the pros are you only pay interest on what you use. So during the draw period, whatever you take out, you pay interest on. Once the draw period ends, then you pay your interest plus principal. Usually you'll find that HELOC rates are lower than credit cards or personal loans because we've seen that credit cards can be upwards of 20 to 28%. With HELOCs, it's easy access to your capital. It's flexible. There are potential for tax deductions if you use your HELOCs for like home improvement projects or home renovations. Now, some of the cons, rates are variable and it can fluctuate depending on what the market does. Your home is used as collateral, so if you don't pay on your HELOC, you're at risk of losing your house. Payments increase once the draw period ends. So once the draw period ends, you're not paying interest only, you're paying interest plus principal. And some lenders have set up or annual fees. That's why it's important to partner with someone who can help you structure it the right way. So that's my quick one-on-one on what HELOCs are. If you're a landlord, investor, or even a homeowner, and you're sitting on untapped equity, a HELOC could be your ticket to more cash flow and a faster financial freedom. If you like to see what you qualify for or how to use your HELOC strategically, maybe to build an ADU, expand your portfolio, or consolidate debt, let's definitely connect. You can schedule a quick call with me using the link below. I also have some resources on HELOCs in the description. My name is Sam. I help investors and homeowners turn equity into opportunity. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one.